Now, it just turned out that summer, 1995, Professor Po Chung was the department head. And he invited me to visit this department. And so I told Professor Look that we had these preliminary results of the use log patch. The most significant thing is that the bandwidth is quite wide. In those days, that was quite wide. And the results were preliminary. And the antenna built by Tang Hong was around 800 megahertz. Right. And it's pretty low frequency. So the antenna is pretty big, pretty heavy. So it was left at the University of Toledo. I never took it with me when I left. So I was here. I told Professor Look, we got these preliminary results. And our friend Tong Kin Fai was working on his PhD. Professor Look asked him to do an extensive experimental study of the use log patch antenna. And he came up with a very smart way of making the use log patches. Just cut the patch on a very thin metal sheet, put it on the Fong, and then with a ground plane. So he was in a cubicle with walls around, and he just put all those use log stuff on the walls, right? So this, what's going on? Yeah, so that's Tong Kin Fai's use log patch antenna. So he tried different ones. The ones that seem to work very well is shown here in the enlarged photo. He made extensive measurements on that antenna. And I still have that antenna in the United States, even though I have moved a dozen times or so. I was, for a while, thinking of bringing it to Hong Kong. But then I decided against it because you never know what the custom people will say. They may think that I'm exporting high-tech technology. I don't want to get into trouble. So the antenna stays in my house, okay? But that's the photo of it. Here is our friend again. Okay. Now, Kenneth doing extensive study and also develop an FDGT code to simulate the performance of the use log patch antenna. And initially, by the way, we decided to work on the middle gigahertz range. So the antenna was quite a bit smaller than the earlier one. And then he do extensive simulation, and also initially it was air or foam substrate. And then he also studied it for microwave substrates, material substrate. I think this constitutes your PhD thesis, right? And needs two seminal use log papers, one in the IEE, one in IEEE. Which one is you? So this is Kenneth getting his PhD, right, in 1997. And this is somewhere in Hangzhou. We attend a PS conference. This is a beautiful girl. That is his wife. Okay, so what next? Going backward. Okay, shortly after our paper was published, there will appear many papers on the use log related patches. Some just make a V instead of a U, is a V. I think that's Sapphire, Loch Sapphire of Canada. Try the V and it still works. Jennifer Bernhardt, do you know her? At University of Illinois. So she was another person who worked on the thing, and then Chen Jiling, Shannon Chen. This guy here, right, Chen Jiling. He spent some time in CTU. And arrays also began to appear using the U-slot packet element for broadband. The group led by Professor Luk and Professor Chen were among the contributors. So here are a couple of their array using U-slot as element. There were also attempts to develop theoretical models using characteristic modes and couple mode theory. There are many papers, but this paper is very comprehensive, and it also lists a lot of references. So if you're interested, it's in IEEE Access, Volume 7, 2019. Compared to the broadbanding techniques at that time, which consists of several. One is the coplanar parasitic patch, another is the stat patch, and the aperture couple patch. The U-slot patch, because it's single patch and single layer, was considerably simpler. So this is the so-called coplanar parasitic patch, a fat patch, two parasitic. And this is a fat patch on the bottom, one on the top. This is called the stat patch. And then the aperture couple, there's a fit line here going through an aperture, and then the patch. But all this more complicated than the U-slot patch. Okay, so I have done this. Now, various design and international cast of researchers. As I say, shortly after we demonstrated the broadbanding by the U-slot, researchers began to investigate whether the U-slot can do something else, like circular polarization, dual band, or reconfiguration, and so forth. So these efforts involve an international cast of researchers, which I'm now going to introduce. One group is my students and collaborators in the US. Dr. Richard Lee of NASA Lewis Research Center. At the University of Akron, my student Ken Hung, University of Toledo students, Tim Torty, Silver Superlo, Wei Chen, University of Missouri students, John Hopkins, Aaron Shackelfield, and then Professor Luk sent two students to us as an exchange student, Alan Mark and Ricky Chair, to the University of Missouri. The University of Mississippi students, two from the Middle East, then professors Al-Shibini and Kish and Feng Yang. And then Ricky Chair, actually after Missouri, after his PhD, he spent almost 2 years at Mississippi as a postdoctoral fellow. And where's Stephen? Stephen also come to Mississippi for about slightly over a year. Yeah, okay. And NASA Lewis Research Center has since been renamed Glenn Research Center in honor of John Glenn. John Glenn was his first guy who circled the Earth, right? I was a summer faculty fellow in the research center in the summer of 1986 and 1987. And Dr. Richard Lee was a staff member in the antenna branch. and we collaborate in research. In fact, our research, I was at the University of Akron then, but even after I left for University of Akron, we continued to collaborate. I think it lasted something like 18 years, and we wrote 22 journal articles together. Richard was a PhD student of Y.T. Lowe at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. So this is Y.T. Lowe, Richard Lee. That must be, looks like me to me. And this is a student of mine. And this is when we were young. This is when we were old. This is our house in San Jose. Not very long ago, Richard came to visit us. So that's it. And then because of my association with NASA, we were fortunate that my students can use their antenna facilities because we had none at the University of Akron. So Jim Baldwinchak was the first one. He worked on the stat patch. We actually wrote a paper on the stat patch, which is very well cited. I think it was one of the first journal papers on the stat patch. And then Tang Hoon, of course, is the use log guy, and Tam Toti. These two, whose papers were very good, but they were not PhD students. They were master students. And I have lost where they were. So they didn't even know their papers were becoming quite famous. Okay, now, as I mentioned, Professor K.M. Nook and his students make a lot of contribution to use-log patch antenna. We not only work on the use-log, but we just collaborate. It lasts for about 33 years. We write books and that sort of thing. So here are 3 pictures of Professor Nook, 3 stages of his career. This is when he first joined City Polytechnic in Wong Kok Zhongshan. So he and Professor Eddie Yong, they share the office. Did you guys fight? So that's when when I told him to work on the patch antenna. So that's one stage. 1 year later, he got results and was accepted for presentation in the Philadelphia meeting. So this is in University of Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. This is a very good friend of ours, Dr. Dahili, who was at Chinese University of Hong Kong. So start to do research, present the first paper, and that's the first AP meeting you attended. Yeah. Then years later, the John Krause Award. So 2017, is that right? Yeah. In San Diego. I drove all the way from San Jose to San Diego. 10 hours. 10 hours by drive. I don't remember. Even if it's 20 hours, I would drive there. So that's Professor Nook. And then he has so many outstanding students. Ken Ip, we already mentioned, YX Go, Quốc Vĩnh Sân, yeah, Quốc Vĩnh Sân, Mạch Chi Lun, Ricky Chair, I never know his Chinese name. Huh? Okay. We know this guy. Stand up. What Mingji? Is she here? Steve Wong, Wong Hằng. Đậu Ca良, I don't think he's here. Đậu Ca良, Lai Hoi Hua, he's watching it on Zoom. Others, so if I miss any, I apologize, okay? And then Professor Chen. Professor Chen and his students, I only am aware of two, so others that are missed, I apologize. Professor Chen?
No, I think Chiu, Ricky, I mean Frankie. Frankie, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I think one good thing about CTE is that we are able to share the research know-how.
Okay.
Professor Look explained to me how U-slot work and
Oh.
how airport work.
Oh, okay.
So I think Frankie basically make use of this advantage by inventing something similar.
Okay.
Use the
But anyway,
capacity to cancel the
I'm aware of this paper where you use the U-slot to enhance the quarter wave patch, right?
So you can see that Professor Look's name is there.
Oh yeah, he said. You cannot get away from Professor Look. Okay. So these researchers I mentioned, they come from different countries. China, of course, mainland and Hong Kong. Vietnam, the guy who built the first U-slot is from Vietnam. Very hard to understand his accent. And then USA, of course, Iran, students from Iran, Egypt, and India. So it's an international group of students who make contributions. And here are some of the students I work with. Magellan. This is John, the guy who went to original study was for linear polarization. So the next step is what about circular polarization? And then what about dual band? And then what about whether we can configure the polarization and configure the frequency? So the first discussion is on CP U-slot patch. As you know, one way of making CP is to have a square patch and truncate the corner. And that will give you CP, but the CP bandwidths, and when you talk about CP, you not only have to worry about the impedance bandwidth, but also the CP bandwidth. Usually the CP bandwidth is extremely narrow, less than 1%. So the question arises whether the U-slot can also improve the CP bandwidth. So here is our genius, Stephen Yang. So this paper, the lead author is Stephen Yang. K.F. Tong is also involved. Oh, I think maybe not the same paper, but you know, on the same subject, but different approach. And I think I list all this. I don't mean they are of the same paper authors, but they have been involved in the CP study. So this is the U-slot in a truncated corner. That's Stephen Yang's work. And then this is the U-slot with unequal parallel slot seem to be able to do the job as well. And as far as I know, one of the first papers is by Kenneth Fong and Wong in 2007. This is the actual antenna built for this type of work. Professor Steve Wong actually used this antenna to improve. Maybe you can explain what you do. To improve the, what did I say? The Chinese area positioning system antenna, right? Yes. Did they pay you well?
No, I cost zero money.
No money?
That one day.
Okay. Okay, anyway, that's the handsome guy there. So the work actually has practical application, not just 唔係淨係叫做咩紙上談兵。Now, okay, the next thing is whether instead of broadband, perhaps we can also